Ryan never thought his life would lead him beyond the quiet repair bays of Earth. He was a technician, someone who fixed broken panels, cleaned clogged filters, and kept ships running when pilots and captains were too busy boasting about their journeys. He liked the hum of engines more than the chatter of people. For most of his life, he believed the stars were only for those who were brave enough to chase them. He was just there to keep their machines alive. But everything changed the day the Volari Empire came. The first contact had thrown Earth into chaos. Giant silver ships had appeared in orbit, shining like moving mountains against the black sky. Their shapes were sharp and elegant, nothing like the bulky crafts humans built. Governments panicked, people prayed, and soldiers prepared for battles they were sure they could not win. Then came the message, a voice that was calm, graceful, and commanding. It spoke through every screen on Earth, not in an alien tongue, but in perfect human speech. It was the voice of the Volari Queen. She did not demand surrender. She did not offer alliance either. She simply said she wished to meet humans directly and judge for herself what kind of people they were. Earth, desperate to avoid conflict, agreed. Leaders, generals, and scientists were sent aboard her flagship, the Star Throne, a vessel so large it seemed to hold its own horizon. Ryan never understood why he was chosen. He was not a leader or a soldier. Perhaps it was a mistake, a name pulled at random from a long list. Or maybe someone somewhere thought it was wise to show the Volari not only the powerful, but also the ordinary. Whatever the reason, he found himself standing in the shuttle that carried delegates up toward the shining ship. The interior of the Star Throne was beyond imagination. Towers of crystal reached from floor to ceiling inside the great halls. Floors glowed faintly as if alive. Strange symbols moved like rivers of light across the walls. The air carried a faint, soothing fragrance, reminding Ryan of spring after rain. The Volari themselves were tall and graceful, their movements smooth like flowing water. They wore garments woven with silver threads, and their eyes glowed faintly as if starlight lived within them. Ryan tried to stay at the back of the human group. He had no speeches prepared, no knowledge of diplomacy. His role, he told himself, was to keep quiet, nod politely, and return home unnoticed. That plan ended when the Queen entered the chamber. The hall fell silent as she appeared. She was taller than the rest of her kind, her crown not made of metal but of light itself. Her eyes were calm yet piercing, as if they could see through thoughts as easily as glass. Every noble Volari bowed low, and even the human leaders stiffened in nervous respect. The Queen walked to the center and raised her hand. Her voice was soft but strong, and though she spoke in the language of her people, every human heard it in their own tongue, clear and perfect. "I wish to see the truth of humans," she said. Not only in their leaders but in their hearts. One by one, the human representatives stepped forward. Generals spoke of bravery, scientists of knowledge, and politicians of peace. The Queen listened to all without interruption. Then her eyes drifted past them and fell on Ryan. "You," she said, pointing her hand slightly. "Step forward." Ryan froze. He felt the eyes of both humans and Volari turn to him. His knees wobbled as he walked forward, his mouth dry, his heart pounding against his ribs. "Who are you?" the Queen asked. "I am Ryan," he said, his voice smaller than he wanted it to be. "I fix machines." A faint ripple of surprise passed through the Volari nobles. Some tilted their heads, others whispered softly. A technician was standing before their Queen. Not a warrior, not a scholar, not a leader. The Queen studied him in silence. Then she asked, "Do you wish to serve in my court?" Ryan's mind spun. He thought he had misheard her. The court of the alien Queen. That was a place of politics and power. He was a man who fixed broken filters. Why would she even ask him such a question? The nobles waited, their glowing eyes fixed on him. The human leaders seemed as confused as he was, whispering among themselves. Ryan swallowed hard. His tongue felt heavy. His mind told him to decline politely, but his nerves were tangled. The Queen tilted her head. "Choose your title," she said. "You may claim a place among us. Speak it now." The chamber went silent. Ryan stared at her, stunned. His thoughts raced. What titles could she mean? Advisor? Servant? Guard? He did not understand her customs, and panic made him foolish. In that moment, his nervous humor betrayed him. He opened his mouth and said the first thing that came to mind. "Husband." The word slipped out before he could stop it. He almost wanted to cover his mouth with both hands. The sound echoed in the crystal chamber, heavy and ridiculous. A murmur rose from the Valari nobles, sharp and shocked. The human leaders gaped at him in horror. Ryan wished he could sink through the glowing floor. But the queen only stood still, her gaze locked on him. For a long moment the hall was frozen. Then, to everyone's astonishment, she spoke. "So be it," she said. The chamber erupted in gasps. Valari nobles rose from their seats, voices rising in disbelief. "A human? Husband?" some cried. Others shook their heads in outrage. The human leaders exchanged panicked looks, uncertain if this was a joke or the beginning of disaster. Rian could not breathe. He tried to explain himself, stammering, I was not serious, But the queen raised her hand and silence returned instantly. "You chose without fear," she said. "In my empire such boldness is honored. You shall have the title you spoke." Ryan's legs nearly gave way. His head spun. Husband? To the queen of an empire spanning stars? It was madness. Yet her voice carried no doubt, no hesitation. She meant every word. The queen stepped closer, her eyes calm but steady. "From this day forward you are bound to my side. You shall learn our ways. You shall stand in my halls, and you shall see what no human has seen before, the heart of the Valari throne." Her words were final. The nobles bowed, though some did so reluctantly. The human delegates stood in uneasy silence, unsure what their world had just agreed to. Ryan, meanwhile, could only stand frozen, his mind blank. A simple technician had become the husband of an alien queen. He had not meant it. He had spoken without thinking. But the queen had accepted, and now the weight of a galaxy seemed to press down on his shoulders. As the chamber emptied, and the other humans were guided away, the queen looked once more at Rian. "You are mine now," she said quietly, not as a command but as a truth, "and in time you will understand why." Ryan's throat was too dry to answer. He simply nodded, his heart pounding harder than ever. The doors closed behind him, and he realized that his life on Earth was over. The stars had claimed him, and he had no idea what awaited beyond. Ryan could hardly sleep that night. The chamber he had been given was wide and high, with walls that shimmered softly in shifting colors like sunlight on water. The floor glowed faintly under his feet, and the air smelled of something sweet and calming. It was beautiful, but it did not feel like home. The truth pressed heavily on him. He was now part of an alien empire tied to the queen in a way he could barely comprehend. Morning came, and with it, the reality of his new life. A Valari servant arrived, tall and graceful, moving without sound. She bowed slightly and spoke in a gentle voice. "Ryan, the queen awaits." He swallowed and followed, trying to walk with confidence he did not feel. Every step through the palace made him more aware of his difference. The Valari were tall, elegant, and perfect in their movements. Their voices flowed like music. Ryan felt clumsy, heavy, and human, and he could not hide the way his chest tightened with nervousness. The queen was waiting in the great hall, the same chamber where he had spoken his impulsive word. Today, however, it was more than ceremony. Today he would see what it meant to live as her husband. "Welcome," the queen said. Her eyes glimmered like distant stars. "You have rested. Today you begin your education in our ways." Ryan nodded, unsure what she meant. Education? Was this about etiquette, politics, or something more? "You will dine with me," she explained, "and observe. You will learn to speak our language fully. You will learn our history, and you will learn how to live among my people without causing harm or offense." Ryan swallowed. It was overwhelming, but he could feel a strange excitement. He had never been trusted like this before. Never had someone demanded his attention and expected him to matter. The first lesson was simple yet daunting. The Valari way of dining. A long table stretched across the hall, glowing faintly. Plates hovered above the surface, filled with foods that changed color as they cooled. Some glimmered with soft light. Others moved slightly as if alive. Rian picked up a utensil and hesitated. The Valari noticed. The queen's hand moved slightly, signaling the head of the table. A Valari noble smiled and whispered to him, "Do not fear. Eat as you must, but do not waste." Every morsel is a gift, Ryan tried. He cut carefully, tasted slowly, and felt the flavors burst in ways he had never known. Sweetness, bitterness, and subtle lightness all at once. The queen watched quietly, and he felt her approval even without words. After the meal, the lessons continued. He was taught the Valari language in depth. The queen herself spoke with him, explaining not just words but the meanings behind them, the history of their culture, and the weight of every phrase. Ryan was slow at first, stumbling over sounds that felt unnatural in his mouth. Yet the queen never grew impatient. Her calmness gave him courage. "You will speak as humans do at first," she said, "but soon you must think as Valari do, or misunderstandings may grow." Days turned into weeks. Ryan learned to bow properly, to sit without stiffness, and to move without tripping over his own feet. He learned the names of nobles and servants, of cities and planets. The palace that had seemed endless at first became slightly less intimidating as he understood the rhythms of its life. Despite his progress, he felt the weight of expectation. Some Valari nobles did not hide their doubt. "A human?" one whispered behind his back. "To be the queen's consort?" Ryan overheard these comments and felt anger rise, not against them, but against his own fear. He was small and human, yes, but he could not let fear rule him. He had to find his place. The queen, sensing his struggle, led him to the palace gardens. These gardens were unlike anything on Earth. Trees shimmered with light and flowers pulsed gently as if breathing. Streams of crystal clear water moved against gravity, floating in arcs through the air before returning to the ground. Birds with translucent wings sang in harmonies he could not name. "Beauty alone is not enough," the queen said. "A ruler must understand life even in forms that seem strange. You must learn to see value in what is different." Ryan nodded, watching a flower that glowed softly in his hand. He felt a spark of understanding. The Valari valued difference, and that was part of the reason he had been chosen. Life in the palace was not only lessons and meals. There were ceremonies, festivals, and discussions of state. Ryan attended each, observing quietly at first, learning the rules. Some meetings were long, with Valari debating policies in ways that seemed endless. Others were quiet, with the queen confiding small stories of her childhood and the challenges of leadership. In one such moment, she spoke softly. "Do you know why I chose you, Ryan? Not because you are strong or clever, but because you are human. Humans do not see limits as easily. They take risks, make mistakes, and still try again. That is why you said what you did in the chamber. You acted without fear, and that is rare." Ryan felt a warmth in his chest. He had worried that his joke of a word would be taken as foolishness. Instead, it had been seen as courage. As weeks passed, Ryan found small ways to connect with the Valari people. He helped the gardeners rearrange a section of the palace grounds, using human logic to improve the flow of water and sunlight. He asked the cooks questions about ingredients, suggesting small changes that delighted them. Slowly, the nobles who had doubted him began to notice. Yet not all was easy. Ryan missed Earth terribly. He missed the simplicity of a quiet room, the feel of solid ground under his feet, and the hum of machinery he understood. The stars around him were beautiful, but they were not home. He confided in the queen one evening as they walked along a bridge of light in the gardens. "I feel like I am learning so much," he said, "but I do not know if I can ever belong here." The queen's hand brushed his gently, a gesture that carried more comfort than words could. Belonging is not given. It is chosen, and it grows through action. You are choosing each day, Ryan, whether you wish to be part of this place. That is what makes you special. Ryan thought of the humans he had left behind, of friends and family who would never see the wonders of the Valari Empire. Yet he also felt pride. He was learning, growing, and proving that a human could matter in ways even the most powerful Valari had not imagined. By the end of the first month, Ryan had learned enough to participate in minor council discussions. He still stumbled over alien words, and he still felt awkward in formal settings, but his ideas, offered simply and honestly, began to attract attention. A small group of younger nobles, curious about this human who had become the queen's consort, began to watch him. They asked questions about Earth, about human customs, and about his thoughts on leadership. Ryan shared freely, not as a scholar but as a human, and the Valari found his perspective refreshing. In one council meeting, a discussion arose about distributing resources to a distant colony. The Valari solution was efficient but rigid. Ryan suggested a more flexible approach, considering the needs of both workers and leaders. At first, the council hesitated, but the queen smiled, signaling approval. Slowly, others nodded, and the human idea began to take root. That night, as he lay in his chamber, Ryan realized something remarkable. He was not just surviving. He was beginning to influence. His words mattered. His presence mattered. He was part of a world far larger than he had ever imagined, and he had a place in it. For the first time, he felt the stirrings of confidence. Perhaps being a human in the Palace of Stars was not a mistake. Perhaps it was exactly what the Valari Empire needed, and most importantly, he realized he was no longer alone in this journey. The Queen, calm and powerful, had chosen him for a reason, and she would guide him. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew he would face them not as a mere technician from Earth, but as someone who could stand beside a queen and perhaps change the course of a star-faring empire. The palace was still vast and strange, and the stars beyond were still endless. But for the first time, Rian felt a spark of belonging. He was no longer just a visitor. He was part of the story of the Valari, and the story of humans among the stars had only just begun. Rian awoke early, as he had every morning since arriving at the Valari Palace. But today was different. A quiet tension hung in the air, even in the soft glow of his chamber. Today, he would face the 3 trials of union, an ancient set of challenges, designed to test anyone who would take a place at the Queen's side. The Queen herself appeared at his door. Her presence always carried calm authority, but today it seemed sharper, as if the air itself was waiting for her words. "You are ready," she said. "Today, you will demonstrate loyalty, wisdom, and courage. The trials are not meant to harm you. They are meant to show the true strength of your heart and mind." Rian nodded, though his stomach churned. He had been learning Valari customs for weeks, but a trial was something more. It was a public measure of his worth, and failure was not an option. The first trial was the trial of mind. He was led to a chamber filled with light panels and hovering glyphs that shifted constantly. Valari scholars sat along the walls, their expressions unreadable. The Queen gestured for him to step forward. "The trial of mind tests creativity and logic," she said. "You will solve problems in ways the Valari cannot anticipate. Your human ways may help you succeed." Rian stepped carefully into the center. The first puzzle appeared, a complex arrangement of light patterns that needed to align perfectly. The Valari had studied these for decades. To them, the solution was hidden in their traditional approach. Rian observed quietly. He noticed patterns that the Valari had not considered, small irregularities, tiny details overlooked in their methodical thinking. Slowly, he began to shift the lights, not by repeating what they expected, but by thinking differently. Hours seemed to pass. The Valari scholars whispered among themselves. Some shook their heads, unable to follow Rian's approach. And then, with a final movement, the lights clicked into perfect alignment. The chamber glowed brightly and the Queen's eyes sparkled with approval. "You have succeeded because you think as humans do," she said. "You see paths where others see only walls. Remember this, Rian. Your way of thinking is a gift." Next came the trial of heart. For this, Rian was taken to the lower levels of the palace where workers and caretakers of the Valari Empire went about their duties. Their tasks were simple, yet vital: feeding creatures of the gardens, maintaining the floating walkways, and tending to energy sources that powered the palace. "You must show understanding and compassion," the Queen explained. "You will be observed by those who have served the Empire for generations. They will know if your intentions are true." Rian walked among the workers. At first, he simply observed. He saw their faces, their careful movements, and the pride they took in their work. He began to ask questions, genuinely curious about their lives and the challenges they faced. He helped where he could, offering small solutions drawn from his human experience. A water conduit was blocked, causing a small fountain to sputter. Rian climbed down, using tools he had carried from Earth. The workers watched in surprise as he carefully cleared the obstruction and restored the flow. "You could have ignored this," said one elder Valari quietly. "Yet you did not. That shows care." Rian nodded. "Every part of this palace matters. Every person matters." The Queen observed silently from above. By the end of the day, the workers had grown to trust him, greeting him with smiles and nods. The trial was complete. The trial of heart was not about strength or skill. It was about sincerity, and Rian's human honesty had passed where formality alone might fail. The third trial was the most daunting, the trial of courage. For this trial, Ryan was taken to a high balcony overlooking the vast expanse of the Valari Empire. Below, the city shimmered like a living constellation, full of life and light. The queen stood beside him, her expression serene. "You will be asked to choose," she said. "You may return to your home among humans, safe and comfortable. Or you may remain with me, bound to my rule and to this empire. The choice is yours. Your courage will be measured not by action, but by commitment." Ryan looked out over the alien world. He thought of Earth, the life he had left behind, the quiet streets, the people he knew. But he also thought of the palace, the queen and the Valari who had begun to trust him. Fear rose, whispering that he should leave, that he was too small, too human for this vast empire. But another voice, quieter yet stronger, reminded him of why he had spoken that word in the chamber months ago. He had acted without fear once. Could he not act with courage now? He turned to the queen. "I choose to stay," he said. "I choose to learn, to help, and to stand by your side." The queen nodded, her eyes filled with pride. "Then the trial of courage is complete. You have shown loyalty, wisdom, and bravery. You are ready to take your place beside me." The final ceremony was quiet yet powerful. Ryan knelt as the queen extended her hand. A soft light surrounded them, flowing into him like warmth. The Valari. Nobles watched in silence, many still skeptical, but none could deny the bond forming between the queen and the human who had passed all trials. Over the next days, word of Ryan's success spread throughout the palace. Even the most doubtful nobles began to treat him with respect. He still stumbled over words and awkward gestures, but it no longer mattered. His courage and sincerity spoke louder than etiquette. Ryan also learned more about the queen herself. She was not only a ruler but a thinker, a teacher, and a guide. She spoke of her responsibilities, her dreams for the empire, and her hopes for humans and Valari alike. Ryan listened, offering insight. When he could, and slowly, they built a partnership rooted in mutual trust. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, the queen spoke softly. "The trials were not meant to break you. They were meant to show you your own strength. Many humans would have failed, but you succeeded because you remained true to yourself." Ryan smiled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time, he understood that his human qualities, the honesty, the curiosity, the willingness to act, were exactly what had made him worthy. "You make it easy to believe in myself," he said. The queen placed her hand on his. "You must always remember this, Ryan. Your courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite fear." As the stars began to shimmer in the alien sky above, Ryan felt a quiet pride. He had faced challenges unlike anything on Earth and had passed not by strength alone but by heart, mind, and courage. In the days that followed, he was no longer just the queen's husband in name. He was an advisor, a companion, and a symbol of what humans could offer to a star-faring empire. The Valari who had doubted him now approached with questions and respect. Young nobles sought his opinion, curious about the world he came from. Ryan still missed Earth. He missed the familiar hum of machines, the comfort of simple meals, and the gentle rhythm of human life. Yet he also understood that he was part of something far greater now. He had passed the trials, earned his place, and discovered that humans could indeed make a difference on a scale that stretched across the stars. The palace, once intimidating and alien, now felt like a place where he could grow. And for the first time, Ryan realized that his life was not merely about survival or adaptation. It was about connection, understanding, and the quiet power of human qualities in a universe that valued precision and tradition. He had chosen courage, and in doing so, he had found not only a place beside the queen, but a new purpose. The trials were over, but the journey was only beginning. Ryan looked at the queen, who watched the stars with the same calm certainty he had seen in the chamber the first day they met. "I will do my best," he said quietly. She smiled, a gesture that conveyed both approval and promise. and that will always be enough. For the first time, Ryan felt that he truly belonged, not as a visitor, not as a guest, but as someone whose human heart could stand alongside the greatest of alien minds. He was ready for the challenges ahead, ready to explore what it truly meant to be the Queen's partner in a world filled with wonder and endless possibilities. Ryan had begun to find his rhythm in the palace. The glow of the halls no longer intimidated him, and the Queen's presence, once overwhelming, now offered steady guidance. He understood Velari customs better, learned their language, and even began to offer ideas in council meetings. Yet he also realized that his position as a human husband was still unusual, and not all the nobles had embraced it. It started quietly. A few murmurs in the hall, whispers during meals, skeptical glances during council discussions. Ryan knew that change rarely came easily, and that being human in a Velari empire would always provoke curiosity, and sometimes resistance. One morning, the Queen summoned him to the council chamber. The room was vast, circular, with a high ceiling that shimmered like liquid light. The nobles were already gathered, their expressions sharp and unreadable. Ryan could feel their eyes on him as he stepped forward. "Ryan," the Queen said, her voice steady, "you have passed the trials. You have shown wisdom, courage, and heart. But leadership is not without challenge. Some in my court do not understand your place. Today you will face that." Ryan nodded. He had expected this, though he had hoped it would take longer. The first noble to speak was high-ranking, with pale eyes that seemed to see right through him. "A human as the Queen's partner," he said slowly, "is unprecedented. How can we trust that his thoughts, his suggestions will benefit the Empire?" The chamber buzzed with quiet murmurs. Other nobles nodded in agreement, some frowning, others whispering doubts. Ryan felt the weight of their judgment. Yet he remembered the lessons from the trials: honesty, patience, and courage. "I am not Velari," Ryan said, his voice calm but firm. "I am human. That means I think differently, and sometimes that brings ideas you may not expect. I do not claim to know everything, but I listen. I learn and I try to understand. I do not lead by fear or tradition alone, but by care and observation. That is how I can help." There was silence. A few nobles exchanged uneasy looks, unsure how to respond. The Queen observed quietly, her eyes encouraging. "Your perspective may be unfamiliar," Ryan continued, "but it does not mean it is wrong. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from seeing what others cannot." Slowly, some heads nodded. The younger nobles, curious and eager for change, leaned forward. The older, more traditional nobles remained silent, but the tension in the room softened slightly. Over the next days, Ryan faced subtle challenges. Requests for advice were twisted into tests. Questions in council were framed to trap him. Rumors spread that a human could not understand Velari strategy or culture. At first, he felt the sting of doubt. But he remembered the trial of mind, the trial of heart, and the trial of courage. Each of those trials had proven that human qualities could make a difference, even in a world that seemed impossibly alien. Ryan began to approach the challenges, as he always had, with honesty and thoughtfulness. When nobles attempted to undermine his suggestions, he listened carefully and responded calmly, showing how his ideas could work in harmony with Velari practices. Slowly, even some skeptics began to see his value. One significant test came when a distant colony requested additional resources. The traditional Velari solution was to follow strict rules, distributing based solely on hierarchy and efficiency. Ryan proposed a human approach, to consider both the leader's needs and the workers' conditions. At first, the nobles laughed quietly, assuming a human could not understand the structure. But Ryan presented clear examples drawing on both observation and logic. He showed how morale, cooperation, and flexibility could strengthen the colony rather than rigid control. The Queen watched with quiet pride. She spoke up, endorsing his idea. "We must consider all angles. The human sees what the Velari might overlook. His vision is valuable." One by one, other nobles began to support him. The murmurs of doubt transformed into cautious interest. Ryan felt a sense of accomplishment, not because he had proven himself perfect, but because he had shown that different perspectives could improve the Empire. Even so, tension remained. Some factions still whispered behind closed doors, plotting ways to use his human nature as a weakness. Ryan learned to navigate these carefully, never responding with anger, but with steady confidence and reasoned words. Over time, his calm approach began to shift the atmosphere. Outside the council chambers, the common Valari watched Ryan with curiosity and admiration. The workers, caretakers, and scholars who had met him during the trial of heart greeted him warmly, sharing insights and seeking advice. He learned from them as much as they learned from him. Slowly, he became a bridge between tradition and change, between humans and Valari. The Queen, ever watchful, guided him through each challenge. "Leadership is not always about command," she said one evening as they walked along a floating bridge in the palace gardens. "It is about influence, understanding, and the courage to act when others hesitate. You have all of these, Rian. Remember that, even when others doubt you." Rian smiled. He remembered the first days in the palace, the nervousness, the fear, and the shock of being chosen as the Queen's husband. Now he stood with purpose, confident that his human qualities, honesty, compassion, creativity, could make a difference in this vast empire. The palace itself seemed to recognize his growing role. Doors opened more smoothly, staff greeted him with respect, and nobles who had once scowled now sought his counsel in secret. It was subtle, but change was happening and Ryan could feel it. Then came a challenge that tested him in unexpected ways. A dispute arose over the allocation of energy from a new resource discovered on a distant moon. Some nobles wanted to hoard it, ensuring that their regions would grow stronger, while others wished to distribute it fairly across the empire. The arguments were heated and tensions rose. Ryan spoke simply, calmly, and clearly. "If we take only what benefits ourselves, we weaken the empire as a whole. We are strongest when we act together. The resource should benefit everyone, not just a few." The chamber fell silent. The words were not clever or ornate, but they were true. Slowly, the nobles began to nod. Some protested, but the Queen's support was unwavering. "A human speaks plainly," she said. "Yet he speaks wisely." By the end of the week, the decision had been made in favor of fairness. The Empire's resources would be shared, ensuring cooperation and unity. Ryan's influence had grown, not through force or power, but through honesty, observation, and courage. Even among the most skeptical nobles, curiosity replaced disdain. They asked him questions about Earth, about human ways of governing, and about the ideas that had allowed humans to survive in a smaller, less powerful world. Ryan answered openly, never claiming superiority, only offering perspective. Through these experiences, Ryan learned something vital. Leadership was not about being the strongest or the smartest. It was about connecting, understanding, and showing others that their voices mattered. His humanity, once seen as a weakness, had become his greatest strength. The Queen often observed quietly, allowing him to find his way. Yet she occasionally reminded him of the balance he must maintain. "You have gained respect, Ryan," she said one night as they watched the stars. "But never forget that influence is earned daily. It can be lost if taken for granted. Be patient and always act with honesty." Ryan nodded. He understood now that his journey had only begun. The palace, once intimidating, had become a place of growth. The Valari, once suspicious, were learning that humans could offer insight beyond strength or tradition. And he, once a simple technician from Earth, had begun to play a role in shaping the course of an empire. The palace corridors, glowing gardens, and floating bridges were no longer just wonders to admire. They were stages for learning, for leadership, and for demonstrating the power of a human heart in a world of alien perfection. By the time the week ended, Ryan had earned not only the Queen's trust but also the quiet respect of many nobles and workers. The empire itself was beginning to shift in subtle ways, inspired by his ideas and the courage he had shown. As he walked through the palace gardens with the Queen, Ryan felt a deep sense of purpose. He had faced doubt, prejudice, and challenge, and had emerged stronger. The empire was not just a place of beauty and power. It was a living community that could grow, adapt, and change. And he, a human among the stars, was part of that transformation. "Change is never easy," the Queen said softly, her eyes reflecting the glow of the gardens. "But you have shown that even one human can influence the hearts and minds of many. That is why I chose you." Ryan smiled, feeling both pride and humility. He had not sought recognition, yet he had earned it through honesty, courage, and heart. The palace, the empire, and the stars beyond were no longer distant and unreachable. They were part of his life now, and he was ready to face whatever came next. The trials of leadership, he realized, would never truly end. But with the Queen by his side and his human qualities as his guide, Ryan was ready to continue shaping a future that embraced both human and Valari strengths. For the first time, he felt that his place in the stars was not an accident. It was a beginning, and the journey ahead promised wonders, challenges, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that being human could change an empire. Ryan had changed in ways he never expected. The once intimidating palace now felt familiar, and the glowing halls, floating bridges, and gardens of light were places where he could walk with purpose rather than fear. He was no longer just a human technician from Earth. He had become a part of the Valari Empire, recognized not only by the Queen but also by the people around him. Yet, being a husband to the Queen was not simply a title. It was a responsibility, a partnership, and a challenge. Ryan understood that he had to continue learning, listening, and acting wisely. Every decision mattered not just for him, but for the balance of two worlds, the human world he had left behind, and the empire that had welcomed him. The first task that awaited him that morning was an audience with the Council of Nobles. The chamber was large and circular, with light flowing along the walls like rivers. Ryan walked confidently to his place beside the Queen. The nobles had grown used to his presence, but their expressions were serious, awaiting ideas and insight from the human who had changed their empire in subtle ways. The Queen spoke first. "We have received reports from distant colonies. Decisions must be made regarding resources, communication, and education. Ryan, your perspective is valued. Speak freely." Ryan took a breath. He had learned to speak with clarity and confidence, using human logic while respecting Valari tradition. "We should focus on cooperation," he said. "Resources should be shared based on need and contribution. Each colony has its strengths, and by supporting each other, we strengthen the empire as a whole." Some nobles exchanged glances, unsure at first. Yet as Ryan explained the reasoning step by step, demonstrating fairness and balance, their doubts began to fade. By the end of the discussion, the council had adopted his plan. The empire would benefit from unity, and Ryan's words had helped shape the decision. After the council meeting, Ryan walked through the palace gardens with the Queen. The floating paths glimmered beneath their feet, and the soft hum of alien life surrounded them. "You have grown strong in this role," the Queen said, her voice calm and full of warmth. "Humans are rare among my people. Your ability to see both sides, to listen, and to act wisely is why you belong here." Ryan smiled. "I still feel like an outsider sometimes," he admitted. "But I am learning, and I want to help." The Queen nodded. "That is all anyone can ask. You have proven that being human is not a weakness. It can be a gift." In the following weeks, Ryan continued to build connections across the empire. He spent time with workers, soldiers, and scholars, listening to their concerns and sharing ideas. He introduced simple Earth practices, ways of organizing work, methods for improving communication, and ways to encourage collaboration. The Valari were initially hesitant, but they saw results. Projects ran more smoothly, disputes were resolved faster, and morale improved. One day, Ryan visited a small settlement on a moon far from the palace. The settlement had struggled with maintaining energy for its homes and schools. Ryan worked alongside the locals, using both Valari technology and human ingenuity. He adjusted solar arrays, repaired circuits, and organized teams for efficient work. By evening, the settlement's energy systems were fully operational, and the inhabitants welcomed him with smiles and gratitude. The experience reminded Ryan of Earth. He missed the simple satisfaction of fixing a problem with his hands, the sense of purpose that came from helping people directly. Yet now his actions had a greater impact. The settlement was not just fixed. It had improved because he had shared ideas and guided the community. Back at the palace, news of his success spread. More nobles began to seek his advice, not out of curiosity or amusement, but out of respect. Even those who had doubted him at first admitted quietly that his human perspective brought valuable insight to their empire. Ryan's relationship with the Queen also deepened. They spent hours discussing the empire's future, sharing thoughts on governance, culture, and the integration of human ideas. He learned not only from her wisdom, but also from her understanding of people and leadership. She trusted him not blindly, but because he had earned it through honesty, effort, and courage. One evening, as they walked through the gardens under a sky filled with alien stars, the Queen spoke softly. "You have changed the hearts of many, she said. Not through force or power, but through example. Your human way of thinking, your willingness to act with care and courage has shown my people a new path. Rian looked at her, humbled by her words. I never expected to make such a difference, he said. I only tried to be true to myself. That is why you succeeded, she replied. Humans have something the Valari often lack, a heart unbound by tradition. You see possibilities, and that is why you are valuable. As time passed, Rian began to bridge the gap between humans and Valari more directly. He corresponded with Earth, sending knowledge, stories, and advice about the Empire. He worked to foster mutual understanding, showing that humans could contribute to a larger universe while maintaining their values. He also taught the Valari about simple human customs, how meals could be shared informally to encourage conversation, how storytelling could teach lessons, and how collaboration could improve outcomes. The Valari, once skeptical, began to embrace these ideas. They realized that the human perspective was not inferior but complementary, adding depth to their structured society. One significant achievement came when Rian helped resolve a dispute between two regions over trade and resource management. Using logic, observation, and empathy, he guided both sides to compromise. They realized that cooperation would benefit everyone far more than competition. The Queen praised his work, saying, "You have done what many Valari could not. You have shown that understanding and care can unite even those who seem divided." Rian began to see his role not just as the Queen's husband, but as a teacher, a mediator, and a symbol of human potential. His heart swelled with quiet pride, knowing that he had helped shape an empire in ways no one could have imagined when he first set foot on the Star Throne. The palace itself reflected his growing influence. Nobles and workers alike treated him with respect. His ideas were heard, his efforts recognized, and his humanity celebrated rather than doubted. Even the young Valari looked to him with curiosity, eager to learn from the human who had succeeded where many had failed. One night, Rian and the Queen stood together on a balcony overlooking the glowing city below. The stars above shimmered like jewels, and the hum of the Empire filled the air. "You have done well," the Queen said softly, "not just in passing trials but in shaping hearts and minds. You are more than my husband. You are a part of this empire, a bridge between worlds." Rian felt a warmth he had never known. "I only hope I can continue to help," he said. "There is so much to learn and so much to do." The Queen smiled. "You will learn and you will teach. That is the beauty of your human spirit. It is adaptable, courageous, and kind. You have brought hope to both Valari and humans. You are proof that one person, even a human, can make a difference in a vast universe." Rian stood silently for a moment, gazing at the endless stars. He thought of Earth, of the people he had left behind, and of the life he had once known. He also thought of the palace, the Empire, and the Queen who had chosen him for reasons he was only beginning to understand. For the first time, he realized that he was no longer torn between two worlds. He was a human among the stars, yes, but he was also part of a community that respected him, valued him, and allowed him to grow. He had a place in both human and Valari hearts. Over the following months, Rian continued to expand his influence. He traveled to distant colonies, helped implement new systems, and taught humans and Valari alike how to work together. Every challenge reinforced his belief that cooperation, compassion, and courage were the most powerful tools of leadership. Through it all, the Queen remained by his side. Together they guided the Empire not through fear but through trust and understanding. Rian's presence encouraged new ways of thinking, and slowly the Empire began to embrace change. Guided by a human heart that had once seemed small and insignificant, Rian also learned the value of quiet moments. In the palace gardens, walking along floating paths or sitting by glowing fountains, he reflected on his journey. From a simple technician on Earth to the husband of an alien queen, he had grown in confidence, wisdom, and courage. His human qualities, honesty, empathy, and determination, had made a difference far greater than he had ever imagined. The people of the Empire began to look at humans differently. They saw them as capable, creative, and courageous. Rian had become a symbol, proof that humanity could thrive among the stars and contribute meaningfully to a vast and ancient civilization. One evening, as the twin moons of a distant planet shone brightly, the Queen turned to Rian. "You have changed my empire," she said, "not by command but by heart. You are my husband, my partner, and a human who has proven that courage and compassion can shape worlds. Ryan smiled, feeling a sense of completion and purpose. I will continue to do my best, he said. For the Empire, for the people, and for both of our worlds. The Queen placed her hand gently on his. And that is all anyone can ask. You are more than you realize, Rian. You are proof that humans are special, not because of strength alone, but because of heart, courage, and the willingness to act.